and in this video, we'll be summarizing the classic novella of Mice and Men.
The story opens up with our two main characters, George and Lenny. George is a smaller man with sharp and strong features, while his companion Lenny was basically his polar opposite. Lenny was a large man with a shapeless face.
After walking for a pretty long amount of time, the two men stopped by a river where we are first introduced to the relationship between these two. Lenny seems to be a bit slow, while George was the one who took care of keeping Lenny in check.
George finds Lenny petting a soft, dead mouse in his pocket. Lenny explains to George that he didn't mean to kill it, he just wanted to pet it because it was so soft. For fear that Lenny might get sick from the dead animal, George takes and tosses the mouse across the river.
George begins to complain about how his life would be so much easier if he didn't have to watch over Lenny, though he really did care about him. Lenny offers to leave if George would like him to. George breaks out of his angry rant, and the two begin talking about their dream for the future.
The two wish to buy a large lot of land and start a farm. Lenny is most excited about being able to care for the rabbits they plan to get. Before the two begin to fall asleep, George tells Lenny that if things go south, to meet up back by the river and wait for him. He also tells him to not say a word tomorrow when they meet the boss.
The next day, the two men arrive at the ranch. When asked about their relations to each other, George tells them that they're cousins, and Lenny was kicked in the head by a horse when he was younger. The boss buys it, and they're hired.
They meet Candy, an old handyman without his right hand, and his dog. As the three converse, Curly, the boss's son, shows up, and the two soon learn that he is not a man they want to mess with. As it turns out, he was recently married to a pretty young woman, causing him to be jealous and possessive about his newly flirtatious wife.
When George and Lenny are alone in the bunkhouse, Curly's wife comes wandering in, flirting with the two of them. Lenny is quickly distracted by how purty she is. George warns Lenny to stay away from both Curly and his wife. He knows that Lenny would probably end up getting in trouble with the two of them.
Shortly, the other workers come back from the field for lunch. George and Lenny are introduced to Slim and Carlson, the two ranch hands that George and Lenny will be working with. Slim is surprised in how close George and Lenny are, because most of the ranch hands don't normally form very close bonds like the two of them have.
George decides to confide in Slim, telling them what they had why they had to run from their last ranch. Lenny tried to innocently stroke a girl's dress, but she got the wrong idea and kinda accused him of trying to rape her.
Slim mentions how his dog recently gave birth to puppies. He agrees to give a puppy to Lenny. Carlson begins to explain about Candy's old smelly dog. After a lot of convincing, Candy agrees for Carlson to take his Luger or his gun and shoot his dog.
Slim leaves to go back to work and is soon followed by an angry Curly, looking for his wife. When they are alone, Candy overhears George and Lenny talking about their plans to buy land. He offers his life savings in exchange for them for letting him live there with them. The three of them decide to keep this plan a secret.
Slim returns a bit peeved that Curly would come to him asking where his own wife was. Curly runs into Lenny and accuses him of laughing at him. Curly tries to fight Lenny, but Lenny begs him to stop. George screams at Lenny to fight back, which causes him to grab Curly's hand and crush it. Slim makes sure that Curly will keep his mouth shut about what happened.
While most of the men are gone, Lenny finds himself in Crook's room. The two of them converse for a bit until Candy shows up. Curly's wife wanders in, flirting with the three men. She refuses to leave until she is told exactly what happened to her husband. She believes that it wasn't actually a machine as she was told, but she believed that it was actually Lenny himself.
The next day, Lenny was in the barn with his now dead puppy. The puppy had ended up just like the mouse did that was left in Lenny's pocket. He hides the dead puppy just before Curly's wife walks in. She tells Lenny she just wants to talk to him. She tells him how she was supposed to be a movie star.
Lenny confesses that he likes to pet soft things. Curly's wife begins to boast about how soft her hair is. She lets him stroke it. He grabs too tightly and she begins to scream. telling him to stop or he's going to mess it up.
However, Lenny does not stop. He actually panics and attempts to silence Curly's wife by clamping his hands over her mouth. Upon Lenny doing this, Curly's wife, being too struggle against him, causing Lenny to accidentally break her neck.
Frightened, Lenny returns to the place George told him to come back to if anything happened. Meanwhile, the men back at the ranch discovers Curly's wife's body in the barn. They quickly deduce that Lenny was the culprit, and they organize a lynch to find him.
George flees the ranch and heads to the pool where they agreed to meet, praying that Lenny had remembered to go there. Sure enough, there he was. Lenny begins apologizing over and over to George about how he had done a bad thing. Much to Lenny's surprise, George is not mad.
George begins telling Lenny the story about their dream, about the farm they would have. Lenny begins to calm down as George tells the story. George tells Lenny about the rabbits who attend. The sound of the approaching lynch grows nearer. George continues to tell the story as he slowly raises the gun back into the back of Lenny's head and pulls the trigger.
When the lynch arrives, George tells the men that Lenny had the gun and that he wrestled it from Lenny's grasp and shot him with it. Only Slim realized what was really happening, that George had shot Lenny out of his mercy, knowing what Curly could have done. Slim leads George soberly away, and the other men watch them leave, confused.
Thank you for watching, and we hope you learned something new!